Hello everyone, this is Tamlin. Welcome back to another behind the scene. This time is for my new song, Come on Little Human.
Come on little human, put a smile on your face.
If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing here? Go and check it out first. The link will be in the description below. Come on Little Human is a song that questions the importance of critical thinking and individuality. If it's so important, then why do so many things in our society stop us from thinking critically or being ourselves since we were kids? Things like bad parenting, traditional school systems, how kids are taught to be obedient and compliant, even mindless entertainment that keeps people glued to the screen. As long as you stay glued to the screen, you're not actually going out there to change the world or even change yourself. A lot of the lyrics were actually inspired by things that adults said to me when I was a child. I'm hoping that parents of this generation and society today is much better at fostering kids to exercise that critical thinking. The music video is set in the 50s. I picked the 50s because it was the era, at least in the West, where everything has this idealized image of perfection, at least on the surface. And there's this image of a perfect nuclear family where everybody's happy and the kids are so well behaved and beautiful. So I thought that gives a very strong juxtaposition to the lyrics of the song, which is a lot darker for maximum satirical effect. The song itself has 4 different sections that has quite different tempos, different keys, and time signature as well. The music video helps tie in all the different musical style by showing this one little girl who flicks through a few different TV channels. One of the channel, the very first scene was inspired by the Stafford wives. In that movie, they brainwashed all the wives to not think anymore and just be beautiful and pleasant to their husbands. In my version, the adults only care about how the kids appear to the neighbors. It's just the looks that matters, is the keeping face and not embarrassing the caretakers in front of other people. The second scene is a parody of the movie 1984, which was based on book 1984. The main inspiration was the Big Brother scene where they show this huge projection of Big Brother's close-up face watching over all of the citizens and policing their thoughts. The citizens are not supposed to think any controversial thoughts. So I mirrored this concept by having myself being the big sister instead. And the kids are lined up and ushered into this kind of school system or factory-like setting where their individuality is taken away from them. The next part is supposed to be mindless entertainment, a kids show that doesn't have any substance and is just keeping kids glued to the screen without going out and learning or playing or thinking. And it's supposed to be these enchanting people dancing and singing in a beautiful glowy setting that's almost like a fever dream that you're sucked into that world and it's hard for you to get out. And lastly, there's the part where this little girl is listening to a broken record and the record got stuck on the word just don't think, just don't think, just don't think over and over again. And then my character comes in and saves her from that hypnotized effect of the song. We had a much smaller team compared to last time because it was during COVID lockdown and we couldn't have too many people in the same room. We have Nat, who was also the director of photography on To Win Will You Give Up. He's in charge of the technical aspects of capturing beautiful shots that helps convey the emotion and the meaning of the song. We have Sugi, who is an all-round director's assistant and lighting crew in one person. So he did everything from setting up the lighting, helping with the camera, helping the kids walk in rhythm. We have Tak, the production coordinator from last time. She helped everyone with everything from giving me tissues to wipe sweat off my face to getting people on time and making sure the crew and the costumes and the set look great. We have Ek, who's the behind the scenes videographer. He's helping out with the camera setup and everything as well. And we have 2 makeup artists / stylists, Pon and Kwan, and they helped us with the 50 hairstyles and beautiful makeup. This was was my first time ever working with kids. It was a lot easier than I thought. You just need to know how to keep them entertained, just give them a lot of break time, and they are amazing actors. Most of them are first-time actors, and they enjoyed it a lot from what I've seen. Let's talk about the first scene, the Stafford scene. We have the Stafford mom and her two kids. We have the neighbor that came around and the kids started fighting, but the mom tried her best to keep him distracted from seeing any imperfection in the house. When she turns around to look at the kids, she has this anxious, nervous look, but as soon as she turns back around to face the neighbor, she puts on this fake, perfect smile. I really, really love the facial expressions of all of the actors here. Lexi, the little girl, it was actually her first time acting. Her facial expression was the best. Her look of how scared she was of me is so perfect that I added a lot more of her shots in than I originally planned. These wind-up keys, it was winding and working perfectly until the day of the shoot. And once we put them on to the kids' clothes, it kind of went floppy and it broke. We got one shot of the key working. That was the only one shot and I ended up using that. My character as the governess of this household, I was supposed to be the one who disciplined the kids and teach kids the proper conduct. So when they misbehave, I just turn the kids from actual kids who play and fight into lifeless dolls that only smile and say nothing. That I can just dress up and control, and they're just supposed to look perfect and don't embarrass the adults. When we were shooting the scene where the mother, Natalia, and Marc, the neighbor, were having a conversation, they were actually having these really funny conversations.
How about tea? Do you have scones then?
Oh, we can
love
do.
the drying feeling when you eat a scone.
We have a house. Stay the night.
Your
Kids are
husband's
still
not
fine.
good.
My husband will be on a business trip. How about 11 p.m.?
Roast beef? That's very delicious.
The 1984 scenes, we filmed the close-up Big Sister shots the night before the main shoot, and it was just me and Nat, the director of photography, who was really, really amazingly good at holding in his laughter. It was the close-up and I was doing all these funny, weird facial expressions. So during the whole time that the camera was running, he had this like really straight face. And as soon as the song ended, we both bursted out laughing. If you haven't seen the lyrics video yet, that's a full 4 minutes of the close-up Big Sister in 4K as well. You can go check that out.
Put a smile on your face.
On the main shooting day, this was actually my first taste of real directing because I am not in this scene. We only used my projection. So I was standing right next to the camera and I got to see everyone acting and see the shot in the camera itself.
Wipe it off your head, that thought is too controversial.
Before we film these music videos, of course, I envisioned in my head what everything's gonna look like. But when you see real people in front of you in these costumes starting to wear these masks, it's always much worse in real life. I was having so much doubt in my mind, like, am I going too far? Is this too crazy? Does this look like an actual cult? But as soon as you rewatch it on screen, it's kind of not so bad again anymore. It's quite weird and I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm glad that it turned out okay and not too crazy or too culty. I guess society is a cult anyway, so it's not that weird. For the set, I want this scene to be as boring as possible, so we only use very limited colors like tan, white, and black. And it's supposed to represent a boring school system, boring factory, or some government office with no personality and no creativity. We have the officers who are adults that were already converted into the system. Their only job is to indoctrinate the newer generation to be as obedient as they are. I made these contracts for good citizens and it lists things like you can't question authority, you can't talk badly about authority. Then we have a rebellious citizen played by Caroline. She gets dragged out of the room by the officers to be rehabilitated, to become good citizen again. As soon as she gets dragged out, she gets replaced by another person right away, like how sometimes humans are treated as another cog in a machine, easily replaceable. The next scene was the kids' TV show. This is my favorite scene because I think the juxtaposition is the strongest here. The contrast between the lyrics.
You won't change the world, not today, no, not today.
And the image of people dancing beautifully, being so happy is just a really good contrast. I think it's one of the most relevant critique of today's mass media because there are more and more mindless shows still keeping people glued to the screen today. If you are glued to the screen like 6 hours per day, then what is the impact on society as well as on those people themselves? At the start of this scene, we were coming up with the dance routine. And as I was seeing it coming together, it was so ridiculous and so good. Everyone was just laughing a lot and having fun shooting that scene. The people who worked the hardest, I had to give it to the two bears, who are these two small girls that did an amazing job. We had C. She is the most energetic, the most jumpy bear. We have Anne, a quirky girl who's not afraid to act a little bit silly. And that's exactly why I chose them to be the bears. And the bears at some point were getting really spicy. This is supposed to be a kids show. There was some shots that we definitely couldn't use. Also, the bear costume was super hot inside. The girls were sweating so much, but they still worked so hard and they were dancing. It was also really hard to see out of the bear helmet. The girls kept bumping into everything.
ออกเลยออกเลยออกเลยออกเลย cut
Lastly, we filmed the two girls who were watching TV and listening to the vinyl, and these two girls are my baby cousin in real life. If you look closely, you notice the books on top of the TV. They're actually Jordan Peterson's books. Dr. Peterson was my university professor in the University of Toronto in Canada, and while his hardcover books look beautiful and perfect color for the set, I think it's very fitting for the message of the song as well, because one of the books, Beyond Order, talks about what happens when you have too much order and not enough chaos in your life, which is the case for this music video. For the vinyl record scene, I designed this sticker to put on a real vinyl record. The song is supposed to be something so pleasant, but it brainwashes kids not to think. When I come into this scene, I dress up as Teddy Girl. Back in the 50s in the UK, they were the rebels. Teddy girls would dress up in masculine clothing, like they would wear suits and pants. Whereas in the 50s, what's appropriate for women is the frilly dresses. In this scene, I wanted to represent someone who has survived the brainwashing of the system. She comes in, grabs the record player and breaks it so that it stops brainwashing this child who's hypnotized. But every time the little girl who watches TV changes the channel, there are these static that flickers on the TV. But in the last shot, it projected me full screen outside of the TV, and then there's the static. So now it's moved from the girl watching the TV to you as the viewer. You are the one who's watching the brainwashing right now.
Where's the hole? There's a hole.
So the smashing, we thought it was gonna be really difficult because we thought we only had one shot. However, we were able to film that many times because we piece it back together and keep filming to get the most perfect throw. Yeah, so that was behind the scene of this music video. If you want to go back and find all of the details again, then the link is going to be below in the description. The new song is coming soon. I am currently producing the music for the third song right now. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe, click now. I am waiting. Okay. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.